Okay. Anyways, I'm just gonna start. This is my first time, so please forgive me for being super awkward about this. My name's Taylor McHugh. I've made a couple of games, uh, won a couple awards, and those don't really matter as much as what I'm going to get to right now, which is for 3 years, I've been one of the organizers on the Queer Games Bundle, which you can see the amount of money that I've earned between the bundles. It's been done with two separate bundles, a $10 and a $60 one. The $10 for anchoring, well, the $60 for anchoring, and then the $10 the one that I hope to sell. But I also hope to get the $60 when I can. And all of the funds in this were equally divided among every single developer who took funding. And while I say I was a head organizer of it, these were actually group projects with multiple organizers in them. So it's not like I did everything as much as all of these are like a team project of like a team of people who do moderation, organizing. Um, Nielsen Carroll was a co-founder with me, and the current co-organizer I'm working with is Caroline Delbert. Um, in our years, we've earned about an average of, in a bad year, $600, in a good year, 1,200 per developer. And so that's why you should probably trust me to like give information on why you should do bundling. Though there's a lot of other factors. Moving on to the next slide. A lot of people might think that by bundling games, you're just doing a race to the bottom and people are just like, you're like lowering the value of all games. The fact is, selling indie games is really hard. And for Steam, which has better rates than itch.io, 68% of Steam games in 2019 made less than 10K USD in their lifetime. Uh, and that's being generous. Median income is about $1,136. You can see the citation there. This number is kind of inflated because AAA games are serving as outliers. It's hard to get exact statistics, but basically, if you're releasing a game to make money on Steam or on itch, you're facing an uphill battle. Um, and so you might be like, okay, my games aren't purchased. That's cool. But even when they are purchased, they're not really played that much. 37% of Steam games are never played. And so when you are like selling this, sorry, got a little nervous. So when you're selling this bundle, you're not actually selling copies of your game that people buy and then they play your game and then would never have bought it before. A lot of the time, they're actually giving you money and had no intention of playing your game ever. So when you're selling a bundle, you're really just getting money and distributing the chance of getting money equally between all participants so that the really unsuccessful games and the really successful games can kind of all anchor each other and everybody just gets funding and hopefully they're all happy. And that's the thing. Gamers, they don't really necessarily play games. They do, but they also really love hoarding them. And I think it's an evolutionary instinctive thing that we just like to have huge hoards of everything from food to money to games. And so, what this bundling does is it triggers that whole instinctive desire to be like, oh my God, this is a chance to hoard games. And if I don't buy this bundle today, I'll never ever have a chance at video games. And then I'll die of sadness from the video game drought. And so this is how you can take advantage of that to use itch.io to, over the course of years, beat what you would be earning on Steam for your game release and get more players, get more access to all of that. And so to get into that brief like reason of how this works, there's a thing called Metcalfe's law. And I'm going to simplify this a lot. But the basic thing is, let's say that you were isekai to another world and you're the only person who has a fax machine. Well, you're not going to get many faxes, so it's not going to be too useful to you in any isekai. But let's say that there were two people who had faxes and you could send documents back and forth. Well, now it's just gotten completely, well, a lot more useful because now you've got a whole continent that you could connect or something. And so as you have more people in something, for example, bundle games, you're accessing those social networks of those developers who hopefully repost your bundle and share it. And then their fans buy it, their friends buy it. And by doing that, you start getting into deeper and deeper connections. The problem is that not every single user has the same value. So for a bundle that you're splitting all the funds equally with, you're slicing the pie smaller and smaller for every person that you add to the bundle because you have a fixed cost. And so if you're dividing up bundles of $1,000 and going like, okay, but not every game is pulling in $1,000, the money gets smaller. So you have to balance what are the connections of this person? What's the quality of their game? How much do you want them to succeed? Versus like letting people into your bundle openly and trusting. And there's a certain ratio that I haven't figured out, but right now my experience says about 200, that if you're under it, nobody is really going to buy the bundle. And so that's what you should be thinking about when designing a bundle. Oh, question? About 200. Oh, okay. Um, basically 200 developers. So, oh, was there a question to that? Okay, good. Basically, there's a lot of factors that determine like what it is, but that gets into like the fraud detection thing. But generally, the ideal developer who you want in your bundle is someone with a game that you think is awesome, who has a ton of social media followers, and like also is really engaged and wants to work with you to help promote the bundle and is like a team player. So the worst person would be somebody who like made a game that stinks, has no social media followers, and once they like get added to your bundle and know that they're getting paid, disappear and do like the bare minimum to exist. That's your like nightmare person. But putting that aside, 200 developers, or more accurately, 200 plus games seems to be the amount that right now gamers like their jaw drops and goes, oh my God, 200 games, I have to buy it. Whereas like 10 games, they don't really care that much. I know this is brutal, but that's where it goes. All right, so now I'm going to go into here's how you make a bundle, since I've covered the reasons why you should do it before I get into the horror stories of what can go wrong. So going on to itch, I'm going to show a couple ways. So there's two ways to do it. One is the way that itch.io wants you to do. And then the other way is the way that I like to do it. I'm going to show you the way that I like to do it first. This way is riskier, but gives you the most control over your bundle. The other way is less risky, but opens you up to having massive fraud. So I don't like it as much. Um, so the first way you do it is you go to promotions, co-op bundle, and under this you click create a new co-op bundle. And you write your title like gamer bundle. It's a bundle for gamers. And then you add your projects to it, which I'm going to make a private window now and log into another itch account.
Okay.
So here's the other game that I'm just going to add. So you have to have the URL of the game and you have to know which games you get. So I usually do a Google form, have people add their games, and then I just put it in. And then you have to do this for every single one. And so you get a collection of games this way. And then afterwards, as you add the games, so let's go here. And you add into your product one by one, which you're going to have to do this for 200 plus people. So it's really annoying. But then once you have that, you can set your price, which is, we'll just say $60. And then your goal, which for goals, you really want to set it at a low amount because people love flipping over goals. Like they just like feeling important. So your goal might really be infinite money, but it's good to start with $100 and then slowly ramp them up to 1,000, 10,000, and do a goal that can be achieved every day because people will try to cost that goal. Um, Afterwards, you divide your revenue however you want. I like it to be like this, but other people would probably like it to be 50-50. So realistically, everybody gets an even share of your bundle. This gets to be hell because when you have 200 things, you can't actually divide a penny smaller than 1 cent. So if you have 200 developers, the way that Itch does it is it creates a miniature lottery, and then everybody gets an equal chance of getting a penny as money goes into it. And then by like statistics, it works out to everybody's money is fair, but there's slight variations. It's kind of hellish behind the scenes. Is there like a problem or something? I just wanted to check. Good. Okay. So after that, you click create your co-op bundle once you have everybody in. Here's the problem with this design. First of all, everybody has to approve their game, and you have to send them a link to approve their game. If you don't send them, if they don't approve their game, you can't remove anybody or add anybody after the bundle's created. So if somebody shows up and says, I need to be in this bundle, or like, I'll die, you have to be like, oh my God, itch support, please add this person, which itch support will then be like, I hate you forever, die, and be really miserable. So that's why itch support really hates the system. The advantage of this system is that you can't get jam spammers just randomly submitting and spamming your bundle, hoping to like get past you so that they can get infinite money. So that's the real use of it. Um, you can't remove anybody. So if everybody does not approve, which imagine you're getting 200 people and trying to get them all to do one thing, you have to go to itch support, say remove that person, and it can take a month between itch support to get it back. That's why this is the riskiest method if you don't trust the people. If you do trust the people, it's good. The alternative method, which is what itch wants you to do, is you instead go to dashboard, game jams, and click host a new jam. And so here you do like gamers forever and make your jam. You write a description, a bundle for gamers. And then ranked, not ranked, it doesn't matter. You put in a start time, which I don't actually want this to spam real people. So I'm going to like pump it ahead. And then you say your description and can set your hashtag tags. And then the next part of this is, which I'm going to skip ahead to one that I prepared now. Oh God, is you have your jam, you can set voters, and then you can set questions and criteria. And so the way that you set your questions is like, you obviously have things you want to know, like where's your email so that I can email you? What's your social media? Whatever you want to ask. You can set up a multiple choice. The way that it works is you set a number or whatever you want first, and then an answer for multiple choice. URL, it's a drag thing. And like those answers are terrible. You can change these to single line string, whatever. And then once you've like done that, it's created and then you have your jam and you can invite people into it. Um, that's the basics of how to set up that jam. The problem is that there are people who are called jam spammers and they'll just submit their game to every single jam on the planet because they think it'll get them internet famous. And so it opens it up to a lot of fraud. So one thing that can help is you click required questions, but you also have to remove this, like remove people from the jams. God, I wish I'd set up more like little sock puppet itch accounts that I could remove right now to fake spammers. I didn't think of that example. Anyways, after that, you have your jam, and then you can go to submissions and review them. I'm going to just generate a submission link really quick so that I can reject a person from the bundle just to show you how to do the moderation tools. And then I'll go into the next part of the talk that's actually more practical. So right now, here's the submission form that we created. You add them and oh God, I forgot this gem's not published, so I can't really submit it. I don't want to spam itch, so I'm just gonna quit there. But basically, once you have an entry, you can go to submissions and click remove when they show up. I wonder if I have a live one. Oh, yes, I do. So here's an actual real example. Go to here and game jams and queer games bundle. So here's submissions. I don't want to remove people from this, but that's how you could do it, is you go submission feed, edit jam, and submissions, and you can remove them with just one click. So that's where your moderation tools are, right here under the submissions tab. To move on to talking about how to do this, here's basically what can go wrong. So you're trusting people on the internet with a huge amount of money. So they only have to fool you once to get anywhere from $1,000 to $500. And so the incentive for fraud is actually pretty strong. Um, so things that can go wrong are sock puppets, which are people just register a bunch of itch accounts and try to get in with as many itch accounts because every itch account is a share. So they might be like every team member in the bundle, submit with your itch account the same game. And it can turn into a nightmare. Typically, sock puppets, I don't know why, but they like picking one anime series and using characters from every single one of those to make all their accounts, probably because it's hard to make up a bunch of accounts. So if all of a sudden you see your bundle has a bunch of submissions from like, I don't know, the cast of Demon Slayer or something, you should not trust those people. The which that also goes in with double dipping. So sometimes teams will be like, oh, we have a game, but we're going to intentionally divide our games along different itch accounts. So it might be like Bob and George games, and then George games and Bob games, and they'll put one of their games on each account and submit so that they get paid. The other thing is developers will sometimes upload games that they don't actually own, like pirated games that they downloaded off Pirated Bay, free open source games, asset swaps, and finished tutorials, and then do that as a way to get money, which is pretty tough to check. And then the other thing that you have to watch out for, and this is where it really helps to have a moderator who's actually experienced in gaming, is people will upload games with stolen assets that they didn't actually use. If you, it can be really tough if you're not familiar with every single game to tell. And a lot of people, they're not even doing it to be bad. They're just like, oh, it's easy to make a game and I don't have drawing skills, so of course I would borrow Mario. But you don't want Nintendo to come murder you in your sleep. Um, the other problem with bundles is sometimes the reality of running a bundle with a large group of people is that eventually you'll find that they've done something deeply fucked up. And so we've had people like send in shocking abusive behavior. Uh, the abusive behavior is like nightmare material. I won't get into that. Um, for the Queer Games bundle, we'd have specifically anti-LGBT people who would join and submit their games because they hate LGBT people and want their money. And this is more Queer Games bundle thing, but don't let minors into your bundle. Just don't. They don't need money. Or I guess maybe they do, but you shouldn't be giving it to them. Um, and bundles, they're not like something that you can just do overnight. They're a marathon where you have like huge bursts of work. And the cycle tends to be first you come up with your concept, like what do you think is a really good bundle, like gamer rights or queer rights, I don't know, cat bundle. You decide how funds want to be distributed, and then you go and recruit people. And then afterwards, you have to moderate that, which means you have to play 200 games, which is a great way to become an amazing game developer because you'll see every single other indie and what they think is like super clever. And you'll start noticing patterns and start groaning. So this is where you'll hone your skills the most. Um, Afterwards, then you've moderated, you have to launch the bundle and put it together in the system, which can involve doing those 200 links or sending this off to Itch. You have a back and forth with Itch, and then your bundle's made. And then PR stage, which PR stage is a lot like the initial days of the bundle, which is in your first days of the bundle, you need to get people to join, which means cold calling people and being like, hey, I really love your games, join our bundle. Um, for launching, you have to email the major publications, go to influencers, be like, please promote this. And it's basically like running a Kickstarter campaign, which I don't know if any of you have done, but it's that. And so the two times that you make the most money for a bundle are when it launches and when it like ends, because that's when people who are on the fence are either going to buy it or they won't. And so if you don't do your PR in the first like 72 hours before you launch, you're effectively dooming your bundle. And if you don't do PR at the end, you're effectively cutting the money by a third, which is hundreds of dollars per person. Um, so you email the press, you should have a press release prepared in advance. And then you need to take care of yourself doing this because you can't just push through because this is a months long process after launch. And even before you have a month or two of just people coming in. Um, the thing that I wish I'd known was people who do fraud, they're not the same as normal people. I used to have a period where I'd try to talk to people and be like, this is really bad. Please don't do this. Please don't steal thousands of dollars. And they'd go, okay, that sounds great. And then would learn from me bargaining with them how to dodge how I caught them. And so just don't try to negotiate with people who are clearly doing fraud. Um, if somebody wants to help, it's good to not do everything yourself if you can. Um, a lot of people are more competent than you in various things. So if you meet somebody who really loves making trailers or being a streamer, you should encourage them and try to get co-organizers on. Um, the other thing is you don't have to accept everything that's submitted to your bundle. Unfortunately, it's not a human right to have your game sold. Like, I wish it were, and we'd all be better off, but it's not. Um, Bad things will happen during the course of your bundle. You don't need to put out an announcement for every bad thing. So people might write a mean message to you being like, why don't you care about my game? You must hate X group or whatever. Or, oh my God, this person's an abusive dev. Don't release a statement all the time being like, here's every bad thing that happened. Just keep focused on what you're trying to do, which is create an art group or an art scene that's funded because you're not going to have independent art without money. I mean, I guess you could, but you'll all starve to death. So this is trying to prevent that. You're going to, just by the laws of numbers, if 1% of people hate you, if you have a bundle that sells like 300,000 copies, you're going to have people who hate you. The fact is, the vast majority of people won't care and they won't even thank you or anything after you do it. And they'll only write you if it's a problem. But the benefit of it is that you can effectively, with a small group of people or even just yourself, enact systemic change that immediately meaningfully impacts people's lives as developers and earns them more money or as much money as they'd be making on Steam. And so that's the beauty of it. It's important that if things get too big, know when to step down. Don't always just like try to cling to power. Um, at the same time, you should be cautious of people who want to help sometimes because I've had some people who tried to join the bundle because they were like, Grr, I really hate asexuals or kinky people, and I want to like save the queer community by getting rid of all these nasty, terrible people, or even just enacting grudges against their fellow developers. And so be cautious, but be trusting of people who want to help. Um, have somebody who plays retro games or modern games check over stuff. And also, terminally online people have superpowers. So they can be like, oh, that guy with like an avatar that looks like that is actually a hyper racist. And they're just here for fraud or something. And you can't really know that if you're not really a super internet person. And sometimes people also like send false abuse reports to you for like artists they don't like. And then other times people will send insane sounding reports and it'll turn out to be true. The worst one I ever had was somebody sent a report that there was a game that was a child abuse simulator for like child sex abuse. And I was like, there's no way that's true. And they were like, it's behind an amazing, like, convoluted password screen. And you have to do all these weird ass things and play the game really well. And then it turned out to be true. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have nightmares forever. And people just are fucking evil when you have a huge statistical amount of them. So that's the nightmare stuff. After the bundle's over, you'd think that you're done, but what's going to happen to you next is people are going to be like, how do I actually get paid? And you're going to have a lot of people who have never been paid for their games before. So you have to explain to them, here's how you set up a payment system on itch. Here's how you like do XYZ. But the thing is, people who are on disability benefits or other systems who get paid might lose their benefits just because they're getting paid by the bundle. So you have to be cautious about that. And the other thing is, you're going to have people who are like, can you do my taxes for me, please? I've never been a developer. Don't give people tax advice. That's actually super illegal. Don't let any of your bundle team members who get questions give tax advice. And for God's sake, if somebody asks something, never ever answer with tax evasion. Just don't. And finally, after that, you might have depression and burnout after the completion of a bundle. That's normal. It'll destroy you. Don't do it. Anyways, if you're wondering about how to organize a bundle, some good starting points are, and this is the only thing that really matters in this, is these three books: Organizing for Social Change in Midwest Manual for Activists, Rules for Radicals, and Don't Think Like an Elephant. Organizing for Social Change is the thickest book and covers everything from canvassing to like the basics of running an organization. That's where you'd probably find most of the meat to give you the raw skills to do anything like this for the rest of your life. Rules for Radicals is a super short read. I'd recommend everybody read it because it'll just teach you how to like do political organizing, and that's a skill that you can transfer to anything for for the rest of your life. Don't Think Like an Elephant is basically how to talk to people across political parties, activate their frames and lenses, and say what you really believe and get people to agree with you on it. Um, that's one that you're going to find really useful for when you're forming these bundles because you need to get a lot of people to agree that something deserves funding. And so you might be like, there's not enough cat games in the world. How do you activate that frame for like saving all the cat games? I don't know. And so that's basically how you organize a bundle. Does anybody have any questions or anything?